Greetings. Our first show in the year 2023. It's Diggin It with Eric Richey, the podcast that covers volleyball in and around Louisiana. Hope you're having a great new year so far. I know we are here with VSN and here at the Richey Crib as well. We've got a great show for you on tap. You know, we haven't brought to you any volleyball since basically college volleyball. But now, guess what? On the horizon this week, it's club volleyball really kicks into gear, and we have got all the bases covered. We're going to talk about the main tournament in this area to start club volleyball, and it's done it for almost 2 decades now. Of course, we're talking about Blast Off, which will again be held at the New Orleans, the Ernest Muriel Convention Center. Lee Feinswog, of course, he is not only the editor of volleyballmag.com, but this guy was a 20-year club director, and he has been the guy that has run Blast Off and Black Party, again, for the better part of 2 decades. A lot to talk about with Lee coming up in just a minute. And then, of course, we're going to be talking to club directors throughout the next couple of months. And we're going to start off with a name very familiar in both the club and high school arena. We're talking about Allison Didier Leake, who is the club founder and director of Ignite Volleyball. She is currently an assistant at Parkview Baptist High School after serving at St. Amant as the head coach for 15 years. So we've got a lot on the docket that we want to talk about for club volleyball. So let's go ahead without further ado and bring in our first guest. It's Lee Feinswog. And wait a second, I was going to say editor of Volleyball Mag. Your people have sent a note. Volleyball God is all he is need for the reference there. Lee joining us from his home in Baton Rouge. Lee, welcome to the program. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Well, Eric sent me a text earlier today, what's your official title for the purpose of this podcast? And I said, I wrote back Volleyball God. so be careful what you wish for.
No doubt.
These are exciting times. I mean, for me, it's volleyball never sleeps. In volleyballmag.com, it's every single day. I mean, we're taping this on Tuesday, which is a few days before the Blast Off, and already today I've worked on international pro women, the USA stars all around the world, and what they're doing, the stories that we have there. Of course, we're coming right out of NCAA tournament, our All-American teams, and then men's volleyball is in full swing. But for me, the primary focus is local club volleyball and the 19th annual New Orleans Blast Off this weekend in the Convention Center. How exciting, huh?
No, I love it. I love it. And we're going to talk to you about some college volleyball. I want to talk a lot about what's going on with volleyballmag.com. But let's absolutely start off with Blast Off, because that's what club volleyball teams in the Gulf region do. They start off the season with Blast Off. Tell us about this year's tournament. I know the big change that will stand out to people, that it's a 3-day tournament this year. Tell us about what excites you this year about Blast Off.
Monday night when it's done.
It's over.
At tournaments, I always say I sleep like a baby, Eric. I wake up every other hour crying. And leading up to and during the tournament, I wake up in the middle of the night going, all right, what have I forgotten? And I'll jump out of bed and write something down. And, it's a big undertaking. We are 81 teams this year in 3 halls of the Muriel Convention Center, which is a fantastic building. We're down closer to the far side, away from the Riverwalk. And not only do people coming from the Hilton, which is our main hotel, and who may park in that side, have to walk all that way. This year, on Saturday, they have to walk outside for the majority of it. Luckily, the weather is going to be beautiful because, Eric, do you know that simultaneously on Saturday with the New Orleans Blast Off is the
Miss Universe. I know. Is that unbelievable?
Tryouts for them, as well, to see if they can bump set and spike. And obviously, I would assume security for them is pretty tight, right?
Sure.
So, and they're not in the adjacent halls. So, like I said, we're in F, G, and H. I think they're in D. And then there's the cheerleading convention or competition that's going on at the same time. There's quite a mix of people, but nothing crazier than a few years ago when we were at the same weekend as Comic-Con, we had kids running out of the volleyball arena to run outside and take pictures, like with guys who had TV sets for heads or were zombies. This is just a bunch of pretty girls walking around. We're so happy to be able to not only have this tournament for a couple of reasons. Number one is it's a great tournament, but to your point, it is the first tournament in the region, and certainly for the Bayou region, but we have teams coming from 9 states. For many of them, most of them, it's the first tournament of the year. So it's a time not only to see what you got, have a little bit of practice pay off, the girls get in uniform, they get to play other teams. And then for those of us in the sport a long time, it's such a great camaraderie weekend. I mean, I'm going to get to see so many people who I know and care for and have known for decades in the local volleyball scene. You know, you and I always come by to watch Emma, your daughter, play, and we get to sit. And sometimes it's for only for 2 or 3 minutes. And sometimes I get to get lucky enough and not have anybody call me away for a whole set. But it's just an example of being able to see the club directors, the coaches who coach club and high school, so many parents. We have people now. Eric, I've been doing this for so long. I've got people who were parents for us back in the day now coming to watch their grandkids, you know, and some of them are getting like 13, 14, 15. It's not just, you know, like 10-year-olds, you know.
That's funny. That is funny.
I'm 1112. People don't know I look good for my age. But
you do.
You know, so
and I've got a granddaughter too, who's 5. So she'll be in 10U before you know it.
There you go. And
hey, now go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to just ask you about, I know it's in New Orleans at the convention center, like I guess for the last 9 or 10 years. Before that, Baton Rouge though, right? Yeah.
So here's the story. Jerry Stovall, the former LSU great football player, St. Louis football Cardinals great, was the head of the Sports Foundation in Baton Rouge. And, you know, I knew Jerry from sports and sports writing, and he called me and said, I got to talk to you. I need a volleyball tournament in Baton Rouge. It's like, Jerry, I don't want to do a tournament. Really? Come on, we got to do a tournament. So he takes me to lunch at TJ Ribs. So it was significant that day because we had lunch and Jerry convinced me that we were going to do a tournament. And I came up with the idea, you know, and I said, well, we'll call it the Baton Rouge Blast Off. I don't even know, you know, I had the name. And what I remember the most about leaving that meeting was, one, going, what have I signed up for? And number two, passing the table where Jimmy Swaggart was sitting and his son Donnie. And I had never met them. And as it turned out, they were huge sports fans. They read everything that I wrote back in the day in The Advocate, and they watched my TV shows, which was then Sports Monday. And we stopped and talked sports with the two of them. Big hoop guy. And anyway, we were hoping for 60 teams maybe that first year. And we might have had 65, 70. We used a bunch of locations, and the tournament started to grow from there. Well, in the 8th year, I want to say we got up to about 140 teams, and we were outgrowing Baton Rouge. We didn't have the facilities, and we were going to lose the LSU Rec Center, which we still use for the later in March Baton Rouge Block Party. But we were going to lose that for 2 Januaries because they were doing renovations and doing a complete overhaul of that building. It was also the same weekend as the Louisiana Marathon, which is a huge event here in Baton Rouge. Just a fantastic event for the state of Louisiana and for the city. But we were stretching everyone's resources too thin. And so that's when we made the move to go to the New Orleans Convention Center. Sometimes we also use those 6 courts at the Hilton. We don't this year. And this is the 11th year in New Orleans, and it's been a fantastic marriage for us. Everybody's worked great. You know, the hotel situation obviously is fantastic there because everything's within walking distance of the convention center. And then the convention center's, you know, major league building. It's easy to get those big 18-wheelers. And by the way, there's like 7 of them that are bringing all those courts to us this year. Yes. And it's a great place to set up and conduct the tournament and get out. And, you know, so it's a big deal, you know.
No, there's no doubt, and it's a prestigious tournament, and I know the players around here. You know, it is you know, circled on the calendar, and they are excited about it. And again, tipping off this weekend, a 3-day tournament. So that's what I want to ask you, Lee. A couple different questions. First of all, why 3 days this year? And the second part of that, tell us about some of the teams. You know, like I'm looking at last year's winner, and you know, WD and NOLA and Red Storm, some of these teams, who's coming back? Who has you really excited this year to see, maybe players or teams as well?
Well, everyone who paid excites me, paid their entry fees on time.
Yes.
My partner, Louis Pusiger, who everybody in volleyball in Louisiana knows, when we did, back to that conversation with Jimmy Swaggart in Baton Rouge 19, 20 years ago, first thing I did was I called Louis Pusiger and I said, Lou, I got us a volleyball tournament. I don't know how to run one. You want to be a partner? And so we've been a fantastic partnership for all these years. And we've started the other tournament, the Baton Rouge Block Party, in March. So it was Louis's idea to go to New Orleans, and I went fighting, kicking, and screaming. And it was the best move ever. And it's been Louis's idea for a few years to go to 3 days. And it's like, Lou, he had all the logic. And the only part of the logic that didn't factor in is how bad my feet and legs feel after 2 days. So after 3 days, Eric, you might have to be like carrying me out of there on Monday. But I think it's a great opportunity because it doesn't cost that much more for the teams, which factors back to the club directors. But as an opening tournament for the season, it gives just one extra day and 2 more matches for the tournament for every team. And what a great way to get your season underway with even more bang for your buck and more experience for all these kids and the coaches and the referees. Don't forget too, it's first time out for the referees. Give them a break. So the big clubs are always fun to watch. NOLA's done so well there. You mentioned WD, not as big a club, but so high quality. Infinity from Jackson, Mississippi is the biggest club in our tournament. Lots and lots of teams. Just a huge footprint.
And now Infinity South up on the North Shore.
Yes, exactly. All the local teams, and I would list them all, but if I forget one, I'd feel bad. But I'm so glad that, Red Storm from Baton Rouge, where I am, Capital City from Baton Rouge, Cajun Elite has a couple of teams, not a full contingent like usual, but Acadian Juniors, big contingent like always. And then, of course, in New Orleans, there's Crew and Cajun Land and Danny Davis's club, Crescent City, and I'm going to forget some. Pelican State out in force. If I didn't mention you, please, it's because I don't have the list in front of me, and I'm doing this off the top of my head.
You're okay. You're okay.
It's so good. Like I said before, it's a great social event too. I just have such a good time just visiting with everybody. People like Jody Polizano at the Crew. We've known each other for so long, from when my wife Brenda was the volleyball coach at St. Joseph's Academy, long before I got into club volleyball. And I just enjoy so much being able to visit with her. I mentioned Danny Davis, and then, Julie and her staff from NOLA. And, I could go on and on. It's such a great time. And the officials, there's so many of those officials, they do college too. We have a lot of college officials working the blast off because they love the tournament, and, they're club refs. Thank goodness.
No doubt. And again, it's New Orleans blast off this weekend at the convention center, starting Saturday morning, ages the 10U all the way up to 18U, representing 9 states, well over 200 teams. Super excited about it. Let's move on while we have the editor of volleyballmag.com with us. Let's go back. Let's just put a bow on some of the things that your magazine just covered. And I know you do a great job on the college front. The Final Four this year. First of all, what the heck happened to the Big Ten? And then we see Texas squeeze by and sweep Louisville in the finals, but then you Pitt and San Diego. What a unique Final Four this year. Give us your take on wrapping up the college volleyball indoor season.
Well, a great season for the sport, and still unique from the effects of COVID, which is that you still have lots of 5th and 6th year players in the game. Logan Eggleston, the MVP of the championships for Texas, who was the volleyballmag.com National Player of the Year, at the podium in the post-match interview, she said, "I'm so lucky to have had this opportunity. And unfortunately, it was because of COVID, but without it, I wouldn't have had this chance to come back one more year and be with all these people and win this national championship." And that was the case for almost everybody. The other thing, too, is the transfer portal. Unbelievable impact on our sport. It's not unique to volleyball. But all of those teams in the NCAA championship would not have been there had it not been for the tremendous players who transferred in. I mean,
Yes.
Texas right off the top, the setter, Sage Kahana,
Better. I'm glad you're saying that.
Came from Utah. The other outside hitter, Madison Skinner, won a national championship with Kentucky. There were the Libero, Zoe Fleck, unbelievable, came from UCLA, had the best year of her career at Texas for the one season she's there as a grad student.
Tell us about Texas more. We want to, again, that's a regional team here, obviously not too far away from the Louisiana scene, but a lot of area interest this year in Texas. You talked about Logan Eggleston, your volleyballmag.com national player of the year, but Texas overall, tell us about the Longhorns winning this championship.
Well, they hadn't won since 2012, but had been to the final a couple of times, been to the national semifinals a few times. Close, but no cigar. There you go. Really nice group of kids. I'd been over there and watched them play once earlier in the year against TCU, which is another great story. TCU had a great season. Big 12 was good this year, a little better than people thought. But just an interesting collection of really nice kids. As a whole in our sport, we have wonderful, wonderful people, great kids, nice coaches. It's fun to go talk to them. And in the case of Texas, it was a team with so much talent. They played the game the right way. They really had fun. That was a big campaign thing for them. They were like, we're just having so much fun, and that's great. But I got that, normally, that's the old thing, Eric. Does team chemistry build winning, or does winning build team chemistry?
Right.
The joke with Texas was, their second team might have been ranked in the top 15. There was a lot of depth there. There was a lot of huge talent, but just, a wonderful group of people who happen to be really good volleyball players. But, you go back to those other teams like San Diego, which was everybody's darling and deservedly so, but there were key transfers. Who without them, they don't get to the Final Four. They probably don't get to the round of 16, without the setter and the outside hitter. Both did so well. Louisville, the setter came from USC, Raquel Lazaro, a Spaniard who, is just like all those other players I've been mentioning, have all signed pro contracts and are already over in Europe. Pittsburgh, a whole bunch of transfers. So the portal is the big thing right now. And you see it, not just at the highest levels, but all the way down. I mean, I've had coaches of smaller schools tell me, I'm not even going to try to recruit little Sally because I know she's going to go over there to that school, but she won't be happy. She'll be back with us in 2 years. They're probably right,
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about LSU this year and the job that Tanya Johnson did in her homecoming. They pick up a win in nationals. They beat Hawaii in the first round, got run off by a very good Stanford team in round 2. But I mean, big wins over top 20 programs throughout the year, 16-14 winning record overall. Talk about your opinion on LSU indoor volleyball and the job that Tanya Johnson did in year 1.
Fantastic story. Got the most out of that group. A couple of big wins early helped put them over the edge because probably the last third of the season, they weren't as good as they were. But all that they did early weighed heavily when it came time for the selection committee. Nice group of talent, almost everybody back. And now a nice transfer coming in from Wisconsin. Jade Demps will join, and Wusi, the middle, is the player who intrigues me the most. And this might be her going, no, well, that was probably Sonia Dotson. She's also a transfer from Oklahoma. She just finished her second year at LSU. But, Tanya and Jill coming back. She had been with LSU. She was an assistant at Ohio State most recently, came back with Tanya. So you got 2 former players, and they hit on all cylinders. It was really nice. Interestingly, you mentioned that they beat Hawaii in the first round. Hawaii's star is Amber Ajiti, who played at St. Michael for
that's right. Yes.
For Rob Smith. And I know you know Rob. And Rob had 2 players in the NCAA tournament. Nobody else in Baton Rouge or Louisiana high schools could say that this year. And I know you're going to feed into that later, but Lexi Gonzalez, who is a backup DS libero for Southeastern Louisiana, made the tournament. So he had Amber Ajiti and Lexi both in the tournament. Amber had a fantastic year for Hawaii.
Yep.
Player of the year in the Big West. And, back when she played at St. Michael and we had volleyball Baton Rouge, in her senior year in high school, she concussed two of our volleyball Baton Rouge players during high school season, not her club teammates. I mean, if you've never seen Amber Ajiti hit a ball, woo. But your point about LSU, yeah, it's exciting because, that's the team here in my hometown where I get to watch other teams come in. It didn't work out well this year because neither Florida nor Kentucky came to Baton Rouge because they were still playing that COVID-induced back-to-back two-match sets. In the SEC, they're getting away from that next year, so you get to see everybody. So I didn't get to see the best teams, but it's nice when LSU's good because it just makes for better volleyball, and it'd be nice, from our end to have some stories there. And,
yes.
and there could be. But it was nice, too, to have two Louisiana teams in the NCAA tournament. Southeastern, Jeremy White, I'll tell you what, at Southeastern Louisiana, he can coach. He can coach.
That's my next question. 15 Louisiana players on the roster, and one high school actually had 3 players in the tournament, and that is Southeastern and Jeremy White, because he had both the Hildagos and he had Coach Hebert's daughter, Ari. So an unbelievable job for Jeremy White to win the Southland Conference, and again, doing it with 15 Louisiana players. What does that say to you, Lee?
Well, he took over a program that's pretty much been a vast wasteland. They've never invested in it, period. And, in college sports, you might have noticed last night, Georgia TCU, you get what you pay for. It's a sad commentary because the rich get richer and the people who aren't rich have no chance, period. And it's not untrue in volleyball either. So for Southeastern to be good in volleyball, in many ways, it's almost incomprehensible if you could have said that 7 or 8 years ago. And he's come in and done a really good job. His top assistant just got a job as a head coach. I think it's Incarnate Word in Houston. But Jeremy White can flat out coach. And I would assume that at some point somebody's going to try to gobble him up too.
No doubt. Hey, another thing that I saw on volleyballmag.com recently, and it's really a great thing for these high school and club players right now to kind of look to the future and like, man, I don't want to go overseas. Maybe I want to play professional volleyball in the United States. And all of a sudden, the Pro Volleyball Federation, it looks like it could be an option here real soon. And it has a connection with LSU's favorite quarterback, Joe Burrow, and his family. Explain to that a little bit for us, Lee.
Well, sports, like everything else, is all relationships. So the two partners driving the Pro Volleyball Federation is a guy named Dave Winham, who lives up in Columbus, and Stephen Evans, who lives in Dallas. And Stephen is an LSU guy, grew up in Central, and I've known him since he was in college. So, they got a hold of me early on and wanted to pick my brain about what was happening. So you've got all these different entities trying to do some kind of pro volleyball. There's Athletes Unlimited, which started 2 springs ago.
We saw them over in Texas when we were at a club tournament.
Yep. And I went too. And, but what they're doing is basically a collection of pickup games because they keep rotating rosters and you get points. And then if you're the leading point getter, you become one of the 4 captains for the next week. Yeah. Good deal. But it's not to suggest it's a pro league or an alternative to playing pro in Europe. So then there's another organization called League One Volleyball, LOVB, and they want to start a pro league in 24. But the Pro Volleyball Federation jumped in and beat everyone to the punch and said, hey, we're in place. And their model's different because they're not raising money for the league. They're having individual owners. One of their owners is Trent Dilfer, whose 3 daughters all played college volleyball. Tori Dilfer was on the Louisville team 2 years ago that went to the Final Four and is now playing pro in Europe. Trent Dilfer, of course, the Super Bowl winning quarterback. Sure. So he's one of the investors, and he'll have a team. One of the other teams is going to be owned and run by the Burrow family. So Jimmy Burrow, Joe's dad, was in Omaha at the convention. I got to visit with him. And it's exciting because you've got people outside of volleyball investing in it and believing it. Same thing for League One Volleyball. They have a bunch of money that they raised. They got people like Kevin Durant and Chelsea Handler, who I think should do play-by-play, investing into their volleyball. So everybody recognizes that it's the fastest growing sport. We're on a fast going up escalator. And volleyballmag.com, a perfect example of it. I mean, we're all in the right place at the right time for the best sport. So in my case, I mean, involved as a club director, as the editor of volleyballmag.com, watching this pro stuff happen. This is the first time I think it's legit. The other thing to consider is that Athletes Unlimited is going to go in the spring. And depending on the exclusivity, players maybe can say, well, all right, I don't want to go to Europe. I might, instead of making, say, $60,000 in Europe, I might be able to make that much money here playing 2 seasons, maybe one in the spring with Athletes Unlimited and before that in the fall with Pro Volleyball Federation. These are just, hypotheticals.
Sure.
But if you go, like, for example, if you go right now to volleyballmag.com and click on indoor and then pro, you can read our reports from all of the players, and you'll recognize all the names if you follow college volleyball, where everybody's playing around the world, mostly in Europe. And not all of them want to do that. But how can you pass up the money and the opportunity? I mean,
Right.
if you're 24, 25, 26 years old and you can make X amount of money, a lot of it's tax-free, and you get to play volleyball. You're in a foreign country. On your time off, you might be able to travel and see stuff that you never could do otherwise. Fran Flory, who retired as a longtime coach at LSU, we talked about Tanya Johnson. That was her replacement. Fran's daughter, Lindsay, who played volleyball Baton Rouge back in the day.
She coached Emma's team in Ignite in Nationals last year.
Yeah,
in Orlando.
Playing in her 4th or 5th year in Germany.
That's right. That's right.
And when she was 10 years old, a skinny little kid, her tights were like looses. They couldn't even fit on her legs. And you suggest that one day that kid will be a 5th-year pro. What an awesome thing for her, and she's an example of it. But given the opportunity, might she want to play at home if she could? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So it's an exciting time, and the Pro Volleyball Federation is a cool deal.
No doubt. Hey, we're going to leave you with one last question, and you can go any direction you want, but beach volleyball, obviously AVP, time for them to take a nice break. But obviously when you talk AVP, you got Kristen Nuss, Taryn Clough. We always want to talk about them, as well as LSU beach volleyball and Russell Brock back with another team loaded. Kylie DeBerg's just been making noise all over. So beach volleyball is the topic. Lee Feinswog, go.
Oof. Well, just when you think we should have no beach volleyball because it should be downtime, next week is the end of the 22 season and the volleyball world season in Doha. And Kristen and Taryn are going there. They're one of the 2 American teams, Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang, the other ones, in that tournament. So that's the so-called end of the 22 season over in Doha, the second week of January, third week of January. Taryn and Kristen, what a great story, because just the 2 nicest people. They've worked so hard and they've done so well. And it would be so cool if they could make the Olympics in Paris 2024. And certainly they're one of the top few teams. There's certainly a great chance for them. The AVP has not yet announced its schedule, Eric, and I don't want to know what it is yet. It's too early. And then Volleyball World also has not announced its schedule. It's given us some hints about what the former FIVB schedule is going to look like around the world. One of our photographers yesterday was texting me talking about all this stuff about FIVB. I said, I got the New Orleans blast off this weekend.
Yes.
I don't want to know.
Exactly.
So, and to your point too, LSU Beach, a major player in NCAA beach volleyball. And I've already got my hotel reservations for Gulf Shores the first week of May and they changed that tournament this year. It's going to be 16 teams, but it's going to go single elimination, 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1, and none of this other stuff that goes on. So I think that'll make for an exciting and much better flowing tournament.
It's such a great weekend because you have the juniors tournament right next to it on Gulf Shores. So the younger players get to come over and watch the LSUs and watch the UCLAs and all these great teams do their thing. But look, Lee, one more time, what do you want people to know about Blast Off coming up this weekend, the kickoff of the club season?
Go to volleyballlouisiana.com and go read the stuff we post there so I don't get so many silly phone calls and emails. Number 1. Number 2, go to volleyballmag.com and read all the stories and click on stuff all the time. Eric, I look forward to sitting on the bench with you at the Blast Off and heckling Emma a little bit, going air serve, or something like that.
Yeah, 96%. You'll have to sit there a long time before you see that. But look,
go.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Lee, it's always fun catching up with you, and we'll see you this weekend at the convention center. You do a great job, man. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
You got it. All right. Time for our first break here on Diggin' It. Again, sponsored by Farm Bureau, St. John, St. Charles Parish, as well as the Sports Pub and Grill in Destrehan. We're taking a break, but don't go anywhere. When we return, Allison Didier Leake, of course, the club director and founder of Ignite. She'll have some teams at Blast Off. Can't wait to talk to her about that, her career, and currently at Parkview Baptist, another powerhouse in high school volleyball in Louisiana. We're back after this time.
Hi, my name is Will Sermon from St. Charles St. John Parish Farm Bureau. On behalf of my entire staff, I want to wish all the players and coaches the best of luck. Real service, real people.
The Sports Pub and Grill in Destrehan has it all. A great place to watch the game, daily drink specials, and you won't believe the food. From our fresh 10-ounce burgers, fully loaded baked potatoes, and great salads too, like taco salad and grilled chicken. Need something to rinse it down with? How about one of our refreshing daiquiris? A great atmosphere for the whole family. Just a few miles west of the airport. The Sports Pub and Grill, 3001 Ormond Boulevard in Destrehan. Welcome back to Diggin' It podcast. Very pleased and honored right now to be joined by one of many club directors that we'll be talking to throughout the next couple of months as the club season is upon us. And she's near and dear to the Richey family as well. We're talking about Allison Didier Leake, who joined us now from Parkview Baptist. Coach Allison, it's so good to see you. Thanks. Welcome to the program. How's the new year starting off for the Leake family?
Busy. I don't think we ever have much downtime unless we're on vacation. But it's been busy. We've been full throttle.
No doubt. I would expect nothing less. I don't know how you manage both being a wife, a mom, a daughter, a club director, assistant coach, and all the things you do at Parkview Baptist. But let's start, I guess, with the club season. Let's just start with Ignite, the club that you founded and the club director. And it is just so impressive what you've done with that club after, learning from, of course, your dad, Chip, with, what you did with Bayou Bandits. I think you worked there, for 15 years. You probably started when you were 10. So, but tell me a little bit about Club Ignite this year, what you want people to know about your teams. And I think you're bringing 5 teams to Blast Off?
Yes, we have 5 national teams this year, and so all 5 of them will be going to Blast Off. We've got a good bit of kids on our national teams that we're really excited to really get into the gym and work with. This weekend, I think for most club teams, is a weekend that you get to see where your team is, exactly what you need to work on for the season, where everybody else is, kind of what you're competing against for, the majority of the season. And so it's a fun tournament. It's, close enough to where if people want to stay, they can stay, or if they want to drive, they can drive. And so the families really enjoy being able to go down to New Orleans and, playing volleyball, and just, it's a good right out the gate type of tournament for the season.
No, and I know you've had a lot of success there as well. You finished runner-up with your 15 U's a year ago. Tell me about this year's teams. You tell me about some of maybe the teams or the players that you're excited about this year that people can watch when they come to Blast Off this weekend.
So our 1700, well, first let me say that a couple of our teams, and I'm sure there are plenty of other teams that have this on Saturday. There's other things that are going on. So we are going to be missing a couple players on Saturday from a couple of our different teams. Yeah. However, because we do have so many teams, we are able to maybe take a player from another team and pull them up to be able to play. So that way we can make sure that we have enough kids in case someone gets injured or hurt. But with our 17s, this year is going to be made up of some of our players from our 16 national team last year, and also a couple of our players from our 15 national team last year. And so that team is, majority of players have been playing with us for a while. We do have one newcomer who is Maggie Toulier from Central. And then we have Zoe Lacaze from Dutchtown. we have Riley Wall from Dutchtown, who will be our libero this year, and Natalie Heinerman from Dutchtown. And then from Parkview, we have Jency Doise, Charlie Nost, and Brooklyn Phillips. And so majority of we also have another setter, Allie Griffin from Ascension Catholic. And so majority of our season, we're going to try to run a 6-2 with both of our setters. Both of them have beautiful hands. They're hard workers. And so our hitters are always able to adjust to anything that they are able to set. And just being able to work with those setters, I really enjoy, because that's my thing.
That's what you did. You were a setter, and you did such a great job with Emma too. And I know anytime Emma was in a funk, it was like, we need to do a private with Coach Allison, get her out of the funk, and mission accomplished. Every time you do a great job, not only with, the fundamentals and, the mechanics of the hands, but this part as well. Tell me why that's so important for setters.
The mental part of the game is so important for all the kids. However, setting, a lot of people equate it to the quarterback of a team. You have to be able to think so fast and make so many adjustments that your setter is typically going to be one of your more athletic players, and is going to have to be extremely intelligent and can think on their feet and can make decisions very quickly. The team typically goes as the setter goes. And, if the setter's struggling, your chances of winning, that percentage goes down. And so it comes with a lot of pressure, but most setters, your good setters, like that pressure. They want to be able to handle the court, have some control of, what happens between the passer and the hitter. And so the mental part of the game for them, that has to be a person that is not going to get easily frustrated, because you're dealing with every aspect of the game, the passing to the hitting. And so you have to make that transition. You got to take a bad pass and make it better. You've got to be able to put the ball where your hitters like it. It's not always in the same spot. And so, this hitter might like it a little bit higher. This hitter might like it a little bit lower. This one a little bit farther out. This one a little bit farther in. So knowing your hitters is also something that comes along with setting as well.
That's awesome stuff. And we alluded to it a little bit earlier. You were obviously born into the sport. Your father, Chip, is, just a legend in the volleyball community for, his coaching days. I can't even list them all, but H.L. Bourgeois, Terrebonne, Nichols. But at the Bayou Bandits, those years, you not only coached under him, but you were the assistant director for about a decade, learning the ins and outs of how to run a club. And then you went out on your own, and then you started Ignite. And again, what a fabulous job you've done with the success and the growth of your club. I guess my question to you is, either as a club director or as a coach, what have you been most proud of what you've done with Ignite?
I think for me, club is not a business. For me, it's getting these players into the gym, whether they're players from my school, other schools. We've had players from all over the state of Louisiana, coming from Lafayette, Houma, Covington, New Orleans. And so I just enjoy to see them coming in and us being able to work with them, and work with the little fine details to make their game better, bring them to the next level. And so for me, it's just not putting together some of the best players and making the best team. It's putting together players that we're able to work with and mold and, really build that player. That's the fun part of coaching, is seeing from the beginning to the end their improvement and their successes. And so that's really fun for us. That's really what we strive for. Our 15 under is going to be a perfect example of that. We have a phenomenal 15 and under this year who I'm really excited about, but they're young. And so we're anxious to get in more practices so we can really fine tune a lot of their skills that have already been developed. And so there's still a lot that they need to learn. And so that's always a fun age group to coach. But it's going to be a team that Terry LaRose coaches for us. And she always does a really good job. So I'm looking forward to see them by the end of their season as well.
Nice. And we got something with Coach Terry coming up in a little bit. But first, let's as we're going down memory lane, let's not forget that you were the head coach at St. Amant for 15 years. That's a significant part of your career. When you look back at that portion of your career, what stands out? What do you remember most? What are you most proud of your 15 years as a head coach for a great program like the St. Amant Gators?
I think it's the players. From the moment that I got there, they were completely bought in. If they wouldn't have, we would not have started out as successful as we were. The first year that the year before I got there, the girls would joke with me, we were fighting to not be last in district. And then the year I got there, we came out, I believe, second in district under St. Joseph's. And so it was something that if they would not have bought in, I don't know how long it would have taken for me to be successful. They bought in right away. And so that success carried on every single year. And the kids were proud of that. It's really hard coaching at a public school because a lot of times those kids don't start playing volleyball at a very early age. And so it's one of the reasons why I had to, bring our club over here is for my players at St. Amant when I first got there to start playing more than 3 or 4 times a month for the whole year. Because a lot of your private school kids are playing and they start at a very young age. And so that was something that was very important to me. And I'm just really, when I think back on my time there, I'm proud of the kids that continue to buy in. They fought for their success. And every year, just getting into practice and working hard and continuing to go to the state tournament and winning district championships. That just doesn't come from a coach. That comes from kids that are willing to get into practice and get in the games and really get down to the nitty gritty and figure out those fine details. So that for me is the part that I'm probably most proud of is, developing the fight in the kids. They kind of, your players kind of take on your attitude,
Right.
Your personality a little bit. And so I'm very much a fighter and a competitor and my players were the same.
Well, you've continued that with your days now, I believe, wrapping up your second volleyball season at Parkview Baptist as an assistant coach there. You brought up some names earlier, Jency, Charlie, Brooklyn, throw in Laurel Cassidy. And I know just following the Parkview Baptist volleyball social medias, all of those players that have played for your club and also for you at Parkview Baptist have been honored. I know you just had the state tournament or the state banquet this past weekend in Baton Rouge. Tell us about some of the honors. I know some all-state accolades were handed out as well.
Yes. So this past Sunday, Laurel Cassidy and us coaches here at Parkview attended the All-State Banquet because she made All-State as a sophomore. So we're really, really proud of her. She's worked really hard for that honor. But obviously that doesn't come without teammates on the side of you. And so, Brooklyn Phillips, Jency Doise, Charlie Knowles, they all had all district honors and all metro honors. And so we're really excited about this coming season. We had a young group last year, or this past season, we only had 2 seniors, and, we had sophomores that were in there playing and sometimes some freshmen. And so it's always fun and exciting to see those younger ones as they grow up. And when you have seniors come back and they see some of those that they played, you were a freshman when I was a senior. Wow, I wish you would have looked like that when I was a senior. It's fun and funny to kind of see them come back and watch the players that were younger than them that they played with and see how much they've progressed.
Yeah, and what a season for Parkview Baptist. I mean, you guys make it, I think, deep into the Cajun Dome, the quarterfinals. I had a chance to see you, and again, obviously, my daughter played for your club for 2 years and became great friends with Jency Laurel, all those players at Parkview Baptist that she's so familiar with. So when I got to see you this past year calling the games at the Terrebonne Lady Tiger Classic with your father, it was a chance to finally, really, get a good chance to see them up close and personal. What a tremendous team and a fight that they had. But one of the, we did a lot of games with your dad now. We did, I think 8 on Friday, 7 or 8 on, we did, I don't know how many, but anyway, I was starting to kind of like this, but guess what? We had some help. And I think we have a picture. Justin has that picture. Look at this. You and Coach Terry came in to help us do some play-by-play. Do you remember that? And I think Coach Terry said it was on her bucket list.
Yes. Yes, it was. That was a lot of fun. It was some good matches on that court too. So it's always fun when you have some good matches because there's a ton to talk about.
No doubt. I think you guys did a pretty good job as well. No doubt.
Thank you.
Wasn't that on Coach Terry's bucket list? Didn't she say
it
wanted to be a broadcaster?
So she can check that off her bucket list.
I like it.
And she also says a lot. If Eric ever needs help, he can always call me because I know he has my cell phone. That does come out of her mouth quite a lot.
Well, you tell Coach Terry, we'll get her involved for sure. And I guess that's a good segue just to lead, just to talk about your dad and what he's, obviously he's your dad, but what has he meant to you? Reading a bio about you earlier, it's like you were born into the game. Your passion is volleyball. And obviously that comes when your father, you're born into the sport. And, what a great, mentor in the sport. And we talked about a club director, club coach, announcer. I mean, all the above. Tell us about Coach Chip for those that don't know him.
He was coaching volleyball before I was born. And so I think he was destined to have the 4 girls that he has because he picked the right sport. But he is, he coached me and when I was in club at a very young age. I think I might have started at 8. My sisters were the same. They were started at 6. And he basically started club so that way I could start playing. And then once I got into high school, he actually became the coach at Nicholls State University. And so that was a really awesome time for me because I really got a chance to see what those college athletes as volleyball players, what they go through, what he's looking for, as far as academics and the volleyball, their practices, their workouts. And it was something that I really had to think about, is this something that I'm interested in and want to do at the next level? Being a high school player, you just don't know. You don't know that life. And so that was really eye-opening to me. And then once I graduated college, I had the opportunity to go be my dad's assistant for 2 years, which I absolutely loved because there were so many times that we would sit on the bench and we would be the only 2 laughing in the gym because of something that we saw together that most people wouldn't see. And so that was a really fun experience to have as well. A lot of my coaching style comes from him. At the same time, I do have a little bit, there's a little bit of a difference between us, but I take on from him, he just loves to learn. He loves the game of volleyball. He loves seeing players be successful and learning the next stage of the game. And so that's something that I've really taken on as well. We come from a long line of coaches. And so his advice is amazing. I mean, he's had his uncles and his father who mentored him. The advice that he can give, there's many times where he tells me, this is what Papa used to tell me, so this is what I'm going to tell you. The number of phone calls that I have to him, thank gosh I don't have to pay him for that. He might be really rich. It's fun to be able to call your dad and talk almost on a daily basis about something that you both love and get advice because he's probably seen most things that I'm going to have to deal with.
Well, he has been an awesome addition to VSN with his broadcasting and his knowledge and just awesome personality as well. So, and look, Coach Allison, we had to have you on the Diggin It podcast because you've meant so much to our family and what you've been able to do to help Emma in her career. I don't know if you can see it, Justin, if you can come out on the wide shot here over my right shoulder over here. That volleyball you gave to Emma last year when she got her 1,000th assist of the season for your 15 national team. So we always want to, recognize you, and you'll always be a big part of our family. And we want to say thank you so much for what you've done for us, but continued success at Parkview Baptist and Ignite this year. And I can't wait to see you and give you a big hug at Blast Off this week. So get ready and.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for, allowing me to coach Emma, because she was such an awesome kid to coach. I know I've told you and Emma that before. She's, I have a long list of favorites, but she's one of them for sure.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Continued good luck, and we'll see you this weekend. Watch out for the parking, be safe, and the Miss Universe pageant. I guess we got to watch for them as well, but I'm sure we'll find you on one of these courts, and say hi to Coach Terry for us as well.
I will. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate everything.
You got it. Thank you, Coach Allison. All right, time for another break here on Diggin' It. We'll be right back to wrap up this first edition of 2023 after this timeout.
Hi, my name is Will Sermon from St. Charles St. John Parish Farm Bureau. On behalf of my entire staff, I want to wish all the players and coaches the best of luck. Real service, real people.
The Sports Pub and Grill in Destrehan has it all. A great place to watch the game, daily drink specials, and you won't believe the food. From our fresh 10-ounce burgers, fully loaded baked potatoes, and great salads too, like taco salad and grilled chicken. Need something to rinse it down with? How about one of our refreshing daiquiris? A great atmosphere for the whole family. Just a few miles west of the airport. The Sports Pub and Grill, 3001 Ormond Boulevard in Destrehan. Okay, we're back to wrap up this edition of Diggin' It. This podcast focuses on volleyball, but certainly a lot of other things going on in the world of varsity sports now. A big addition to the family here at VSN is Wolfpack Athletics. That's right. All Loyola sports now can be found on VSN. The women's basketball team picked up their 14th win, no losses this season on Monday against crosstown rival Xavier. They beat them 82-58. Taylor Thomas had 16 points in that game. Why I tell you that? She's one shy of career point number 1,000. Of course, we have Loyola, a men's-women's doubleheader on VSN live streaming Thursday. Wrestling, also another big addition to VSN this year. Huge dual meet coming up on Wednesday night. Join Robbie Dotrieve for Jesuit and Holy Cross. Also, St. Thomas More wrestling on Wednesday. Then on Saturday, it's the Louisiana Classic. VSN will live stream both the semifinals and the finals of the most prestigious tournament in the state that gets everyone ready for the state tournament just around the corner. That will, again, do it for this show. I want to thank our guests, Lee Feinswog of volleyballmag.com and Allison Didier Leake of Club Ignite, and also Parkview Baptist. The big tournament this weekend kicks off the club season. It's Blast Off at the Convention Center. Hope to see you there. For our director, Justin Thomas, our sponsors, Farm Bureau of St. John, St. Charles Parish, and the Sports Pub and Grill at Destrehan, I'm Eric Richey. So long, everyone, and Happy New Year.